Have you ever sat down and played a video game while thinking to yourself, man, this game that everyone told me is terrible is actually pretty good. Why the hell was everyone telling me that it was trash? So you start to question if you're actually insane for liking garbage or if everyone else is just wrong. Well, today we're going to be taking a look at what I personally feel is the most misunderstood PlayStation 1 title of all time, Twisted Metal Small Brawl. Twisted Metal, as you may or may not know, is a series of vehicular combat games that have been synonymous with the PlayStation branding ever since the first game's launch back in November of 1995. It brought a whole new life to fighting games at the time that usually just had two opponents duking it out on a 2D plane. Twisted Metal brought these fights to the third dimension with open world-esque traversal as you battled against multiple opponents at the same time. The goal was simple: be the last person standing in order to claim your prize, and that prize was a single wish, whatever the contestant's heart desired. This simple concept catapulted car combat as a genre into the mainstream and launched 1,000 imitators throughout the late 90s and early 2000s. However, once the turn of the new century came around the corner, a new shift emerged within the gaming scene. What was once more catered towards family-friendly with bright and inviting visuals had now shifted to a more edgy, dark aesthetic in order to appeal to a more mature audience. This is where Twisted Metal Black was released on the next-gen home console, known as the PlayStation 2, in June of 2001. The game launched to both critical and commercial success, which gave fans of the series major hope for the future of Twisted Metal in the ever-evolving gaming world. But then Sony made one of the weirdest financial decisions in PlayStation's history by deciding to launch another Twisted Metal title only 5 months after the launch of Twisted Metal Black. But this time, it would only be for the PlayStation 1 system. Not only was this game to launch on an outdated platform, but it also was an entirely new game with brand new characters, levels, soundtrack, and overall theme, marketed towards children. In November of 2001, Sony launched Twisted Metal Small Brawl, and to nobody's surprise, it launched to both critical and commercial failure. In my opinion, Twisted Metal Small Brawl was just doomed to fail from the very start. This game was made to be some sort of spin-off series of Twisted Metal, so that children could now get their hands on car combat and hopefully one day grow up to dive into the other Twisted Metal titles. However, the major irony of this game's launch is that it's still rated T for teen, the same ESRB rating as the first 4 Twisted Metal titles. Not only did the ESRB rating hurt the game's sales, but the fact that it launched after the massive success of Twisted Metal Black, which was running on a brand new PlayStation 2 system, nobody wanted to purchase a game that would be running on inferior hardware. According to the lead developer on Twisted Metal Small Brawl, David Goodrich, who also makes content both on YouTube and Twitch under the username Goodrich Games, Twisted Metal Small Brawl was originally greenlit to be a PlayStation 2 title, but shortly after development began, they were told to downsize their work to creating Small Brawl for the PlayStation 1 due to the fear of taking away potential game sales from the already successful Twisted Metal Black. Now, to a degree, I understand this last-minute shift from Sony, but I think that if they would have allowed Dave and his team to complete their work for Small Brawl on the PlayStation 2 system, the game might have actually sold much better and could have resulted in multiple sequels being made down the line. Plus, the game is literally the complete opposite of Twisted Metal Black in terms of story, tone, and aesthetics, so it would have never really affected the sales of Black even if Small Brawl had launched on the PlayStation 2. The reason I feel this way is because Twisted Metal Small Brawl, despite being handed one of the worst case scenarios during its development and launch, I can still say that this game was almost a masterpiece. I want to start off by getting one thing straight. Twisted Metal Small Brawl is not just Twisted Metal for kids. Sure, it is Twisted Metal involving kids, but the gameplay, level design, storylines, and overall creativity are 100% meant to be admired by teens and adults alike. From the outside, this may just look like some cheap knockoff made for little baby pipsqueaks, but once you actually open the hood and take a look inside, you'll be blessed by some of the best level design, creative environmental attacks, character adaptations, and soundtrack found within the entire Twisted Metal series. Once you boot up the game, you're greeted with a pretty solid opening FMV cutscene that depicts Calypso as a teenager messing with a poor kid who just wants to play with his frog named Gilbert. This might be a possible reference to J.S. Gilbert, the voice actor of Sweet Tooth in Twisted Metal Black, but I'm not entirely sure on that. Calypso steals his frog and says that he can have it back if he plays his game, thus catapulting us into a series of quick cut shots showing what sort of game he is referring to. I really do like this intro because it does an excellent job at not only laying the groundwork for the game's universe and story, but also getting the player pumped for the chaotic, destructive, and fast-paced gameplay we have all come to know and love within the world of Twisted Metal. Once at the main menu, we get to choose between single player, split screen multiplayer, or just your options, while listening to some groovy ass music. Going into the single player mode, we are greeted with some interesting choices for game modes. In the past, Twisted Metal only really consisted of 2 game modes: Deathmatch, where you selected a character, a level, and you battled it out until you were the last person alive, or Tournament, the main story game mode in which you choose a character who would battle through 8 different levels until you defeated the final boss to claim your one true wish. In Small Brawl, we're actually greeted with 3 different game modes: Tournament, Challenge, aka just Deathmatch, and Endurance. Endurance mode was actually brand new to the series, introduced in Twisted Metal Black, and they actually brought it over to Small Brawl, making it the first and only title on the PlayStation 1 to include more than 2 game modes. Endurance mode consists of the player choosing a character, a level, and then battling against one opponent at a time with no limit to how many will spawn. In theory, you could battle indefinitely depending on your skill level. Because of this relaxed yet pretty challenging nature, this game mode became an instant classic within the Twisted Metal fanbase. They actually made it a requirement to play in order to unlock 3 secret levels found within the game, which I do feel is pretty neat. The really funny thing to me though is how these 3 unlockable levels were actually some of my favorites found within the entire game. Holiday Havoc was a Christmas themed map where you could burn down a Christmas tree and also light Santa's feet on fire because he's stuck in the chimney. Buster's Lanes is a bowling alley complete with an active bowling balls breaking down pins, an underground section, and even a claw game that can bring you up to higher elevation. It's pretty damn cool. Lastly, you can unlock Shock Therapy, a level consisted of a mad scientist laboratory in which there are tons of breakable objects, great verticality, acid dripping from beakers, an elevator, and even a giant teeter-totter looking table that can literally shock the player as you try and climb the top counters. All 3 of these unlockable maps to me could have easily fit within the tournament mode, and they would have felt right at home. But I do understand wanting to trim some of the fat out of the tournament because 8 levels feels like the perfect amount for one playthrough. It is a bit of a shame though that they were hidden behind an unlock system that isn't the easiest thing to achieve either, which probably means a large sum of players never got to actually experience these creative masterpieces. Coming back to the game modes, we of course have Challenge mode, which is just your typical deathmatch mode that's been a staple of every Twisted Metal title up until this point, and we have our main Tournament mode. One major positive to Small Brawl has always been its vast roster of characters to choose from. A lot of the classic characters from the series have made a glorious return, such as Spectre, Hammerhead, Mr. Grimm, Outlaw, Thumper, Shadow, Twister, Crimson Fury, Sweet Tooth, Mr. Slam, and Warthog, I guess? Yeah, we're not going to talk about that one. I really love the added detail given to the RC car toy boxes that are used as the platform beneath the vehicle itself. You can even see a lot more of the details for each of these boxes showcased in the never-released beta, along with tons of other never-before-seen endings for the characters that never made it into the final game. These can all be found on Dave Goodrich's channel. I'll have a link in the description below. Highly recommend going checking it out and giving him a sub. They even threw in unlockable characters that can be achieved by finding their 2D cutouts that are pretty cleverly hidden throughout the tournament levels. One of them actually had to be found inside one of the bonus maps, making it a 2-step process to unlock. First, you have to unlock the bonus level, Holiday Havoc, by playing the Endurance mode and defeating 30 enemies in a row. Once the map is unlocked, then you have to hop into it, burn down the Christmas tree, climb up the fireplace mantle, hop off the ledge driving backwards, and throw a napalm into one of the Christmas stockings to reveal a 2D image for the original character Mime. Yes, it is a very convoluted way to unlock a character, especially in a game apparently made for children. But truth be told, I enjoyed finding all this out for myself when I first got my hands on the game back in 2002 when I was only 9 years old. And no, I did not have the internet or strategy guides to help me back then either. But this is just one of 5 total unlockable characters found within the game. The other locked characters consist of Darkseid, Axel, and the 2 boss characters Trapper and Piecemeal. Darkseid and Axel can also be found within hidden spots found throughout the tournament, while Trapper and Piecemeal can only be unlocked after completing the tournament with every character. I really like the addition of the character Mime. Sadly, Dave Goodrich did not get enough time during their 9-month dev cycle to fully flesh out her backstory or to give proper balancing. Because of this, she ended up being a pretty weak choice for most players. But the idea is still super neat and had never been done before within the series. Well, unless you count Minion and TM1, but I refuse to count that because he was never a playable character. But Mime is a character that can mimic any other character's special within the fight. So essentially, if you're skilled enough with every vehicle in the game, you can choose Mime and be able to take full advantage of everyone's special weapon. It's super cool. Other characters had some very smart design choices in order to accommodate more players at different skill levels as well. For instance, Mr. Slam can of course use his iconic Slam special to grab and throw enemies, but if you accidentally miss your attack, instead of wasting the special, he'll slam the floor, creating a shockwave effect sending surrounding enemies into the air while also doing splash damage. It's badass. Another example is Twister's Tornado special. It returns from Twistmetal 2, but instead of the entire vehicle lifting up and spinning, which would cause the handling and speed to be affected, the tornado just appears on top of the car, sucking up anybody nearby, and then it sends them flying, doing insane damage, which makes her one of the fan favorites despite her weak armor. There are many design choices like this sprinkled throughout the entire game with almost every character, which really shows just how much thought and care went into making this a fun product for anyone at any skill level. Now, the main tournament mode consists of 8 battle arenas that the RC cars must duke it out in. The arenas in order of appearance are Playground Peril. This is a small, square-shaped arena with random destructible toys scattered all over. It has a slide ramp that will take you up into a small playhouse. There's a duck on a spring system that can be shot to get extra health, and a boy with some swings on the northern part of the map that can be shot at for extra fun. This is an excellent starting area for the game because it does give you everything you need to understand the concept of the game. There aren't many enemies to fight so you're not overwhelmed, and it has a ton of environmental objects to interact with so that every new playthrough can feel pretty fresh and exciting. Cardinal is the second level of the tournament in which you had to fight 4 enemies this time to advance, and is a horror-themed funhouse. Personally, this is my favorite level in the entire game for its color palette, carnival aesthetic, and it's just filled with a lot of fun obstacles, including a giant saw blade, a moving skeleton, a tube-shaped spinner, and a battle axe that swings back and forth that can deal pretty decent damage if you get hit by it. Next is Easy Death Oven. This map is set inside a typical American kitchen, complete with a kitchen island and a plumber working under the sink. You can climb up to the counters using a step stool ramp. Mouse traps on the counters function as jump pads, providing access to the central island, while can openers and a microwave act as an environmental hazard to you and the enemies. You can even shoot a napalm into the plumber's rear end to create an explosive fireball that opens up holes on each side of the center island, creating a better flowing landscape and new access to health pickup, a power missile, and a 2D cutout of Darkseid to unlock them as a playable character. One last thing I want to cover while talking about Easy Death Oven is the environmental attack pickup. This is the first level in the tournament that has a pickup that, once activated, uses something within the environment to cause harm to the enemy. This particular pickup activates the fridge to shoot out ice cubes to every enemy within its vicinity to freeze them for a few seconds. It's probably the weakest environmental attack found within Small Brawl, but it at least looks pretty cool. Miniolf Mayhem is the 4th level in the tournament where boys become men. This is the largest level yet. It takes place inside a mini golf park fit with movable golf balls, winding passageways, a climbable pyramid, giant spiders, and a humongous volcano that spits out fireballs once the environmental attack is activated. After you defeat the 4 enemies, you are then greeted by the game's first boss character, Trapper. This is where things get pretty messy. Thankfully, your lives do reset after every level completed throughout the tournament, but they do not reset before Trapper spawns. So, you need to make sure that you have saved up all your lives while fighting the regular enemies, otherwise you're going to be at a pretty heavy disadvantage. Trapper is not only just a menacing presence with his large size and extremely strong special weapon, but he has one of the largest health pools found in the game. The only way to properly defeat him is to stock up on power missiles, remember to shield whenever he shoots his monkeys at you, and run back and forth between the pyramid to get power missiles and the heal on the opposite side. It does take some time and skill, but eventually you will take him down and be left feeling like the baddest motherfucker alive. After defeating Trapper, you move on to Meet Your Maker. This map is a fan favorite due to its small size, lots of verticality, and the environmental attack making the conveyor belt move at insane speed, right into a gigantic meat grinder. The best part is that you can trick enemies by having them drive onto the conveyor belt, you activate the environmental attack, and you watch as they fly right into the meat grinder, killing them instantly. We like to call this a skill issue moment. But overall, it's a simple, fast-paced, and fun level that everyone seems to enjoy even after repeat playthroughs. Now, sadly, not every level in Small Brawl is an absolute banger. The one problem child in the lineup has got to go to Gridiron Gore. This map is literally just a massive football field with a moving lawnmower featuring a passed out drunk dude. Nothing else really to say about it. It takes way too long to travel from one end of the field to the other. There aren't really enough enemies to fight in order to make it engaging. And not only that, but there's just not enough weapon pickups. I will give credit to Dave and his team for at least trying to give life to this map by including crowd chants whenever someone explodes, gets frozen, or gets run over by the lawnmower. But sadly, nothing can really save it from easily being the worst map in the game, and from the community giving it the nickname Gridiron Snore. The second to last level in the tournament is Treetop Rumble, the iconic rooftop level of Small Brawl. The reason that I say that is because up until this point, every Twisted Metal game has always had at least one map that included a rooftop aesthetic where if you fell off the edge, you will die immediately. And this is truly my favorite iteration of that rooftop aesthetic. Dave and his team were able to pack in so many fun little gags and environmental elements into one level. You have a push lawnmower that can be activated to drive across the entire track of the map, running over and causing damage to anyone in its way. If you shoot a lever at the right time, it'll open a hatch, causing the lawnmower to fall and land on a cat according to the sound effect that plays. You can angle yourself on the hanging bridge to shoot up at a dartboard, which hitting it in specific spots will drop certain pickups. If you fall off the outside edge of the map, you will fall to your death and lose a life instantly. However, if you fall on the inside edge, you'll fall onto a trampoline labeled Big Tramp. I love it. That will bounce you back all the way up to the opposite side of the level, essentially giving you a second chance at life. This can be used an infinite amount of times and is incredibly fun to hop from one side to the other. You can also use this to run from danger or to chase an enemy who may be avoiding your attacks. It's just a really creative and fun take on the rooftop concept that I feel gets heavily overlooked just because of its childlike appearance. Lastly, we have Now Slaying, which truth be told should have been my favorite level in the game just for the movie theater theme alone, but sadly the level falls pretty short on a few key areas that otherwise would have made this a great final battle arena and boss fight. First off, yes, the movie theater idea for a map is wonderful. I love being able to bob and weave between theater seats while also using the popcorn cart to blow up the stage. Doing this unlocks a health pickup and power missiles, which is really convenient. But that's about it. The map gives off a false sense of verticality with its sloped nature, but it's truly a very flat map with not much to interact with. No environmental weapon pickups, no hidden passageways to find, and with a massive lack of weapon pickups in general, it makes the level drag on much longer than needed just waiting for weapons to respawn. However, one fun hidden item is the fire extinguisher. If you angle yourself correctly on the ramp leading up to the theater stage, you can shoot the fire extinguisher, causing it to fly around the level. This will also cause damage to any enemy that it comes in contact with. It's pretty silly when it actually activates, but it can be a real pain in the ass to actually hit correctly, making it not really worth the effort. Oh right, I should also probably mention that you fight the final boss piecemeal here as well. Yeah, I'll be the first to say it that this boss kinda sucks. I hate to say that because the idea is really neat. Piecemeal is a vehicle created from the broken car parts from destroyed enemies throughout the tournament. You start out on a level with 4 enemies to fight. Every time you kill one, the spirit of the cars come together to spawn Piecemeal for a limited amount of time. As soon as you do enough damage to him, he will despawn and the remaining regular enemies will return. Rinse and repeat until you finally kill all the regular enemies and take down Piecemeal once and for all. Now again, on paper this is a really neat idea, and I'll admit it's a creative take on a boss battle in Twisted Metal, but sadly the execution is just way too slow paced, and the fact that you have to swap back and forth between boss battle and regular vehicles just becomes tedious and downright frustrating to the player. This is even more exaggerated due to the weak level design and lack of weapon pickups. But hey, at least Piecemeal can break down the chairs in the theater as he drives around, which is kind of neat, right? So overall, the final level isn't all it's cracked up to be, but I still prefer it over Gridiron Snore any day of the week. Thankfully, once you defeat the final boss, you do get greeted as some of the best ending cutscenes in the entire series. I like the fact that in a lot of the endings, Calypso is actually the one who ends up getting hurt, played, or straight up killed, and not the person who made the wish. Each ending fits the vibes perfectly, and none of them stick out as a straight up trash or just cringe like 99% of TM3's and TM4's endings do. For such a short dev cycle, they did a damn good job on the writing for these endings, especially given the circumstances. With all that being said though, there are a few gripes I do have with the game that keeps me from saying that this is the best Twisted Metal in the series. And it's kind of funny because 99% of these issues can be all chalked up to the rushed development time and the limitations of the PS1 system, both of which were caused by Sony and their stupid decision-making skills. First off, the game runs at a slow 24 frames per second, which in today's age just looks terrible. Because of this, the inputs feel unresponsive half the time, the actual sense of speed feels like you're running in slow motion half the time, and it really hurts your eyes after a while if you're playing on any sort of modern TV or monitor. Another issue is that for some reason if you back up, the controls sometimes can get inverted for a few seconds, which can lead to accidental inputs and even get you killed. It is clearly a bug and never got ironed out, but it's a big enough issue that has caused many people to rage quit before. Lastly, the graphics just look pretty dated. Overall, I understand that it's on a PlayStation 1, so I shouldn't be judging it based on its looks, but compared to other games in the series like Twisted Metal 3 or 4, who are both on the same system, Small Brawl just looks really outdated compared to games that came out over 4 years prior. Now, according to Goodrich, the poor performance and outdated graphics are all due to the game being built on a custom version of the Twisted Metal 2 engine. Sony did not have an engine to give Incog Inc. when they were tasked with the job of making Small Brawl, so they had to get creative and make one from scratch. Thankfully, since some of the programmers were the same guys who worked on TM2, they were able to whip up their own version of the TM2 engine within a few months' time. It worked, but it obviously is not ideal. The Twisted Metal 2 engine's physics were just not a proper fit for RC cars, and it just feels like everyone has moon gravity and constantly drives on ice. In the end, it's just a bummer that Incog Inc. did not get the proper tools they deserve to have in order to make this game. It also really hurts to know that Small Brawl could have used the Twisted Metal Black engine and ran at a buttery smooth 60 FPS if Sony would have just allowed them to continue working on the PlayStation 2 version. But of course, Sony shafted us once again. With those issues aside, one major thing I want to praise when it comes to Small Brawl's gameplay is the AI's behavior and overall brilliance. Goodrich and his team really wanted the AI to feel like real players that you were going up against. And I am more than inclined to say that they really succeeded in doing just that. The AI in this game actually engaged in a fair but believable way with the player. Most Twisted Metal titles seem to always have the enemies focus solely on the player, making you feel like you're just up against the world. But this is supposed to be a tournament, every man and woman for themselves, so why the hell don't the other contestants ever fight each other? In Twisted Metal 1 and 2, it was just lazy programming in my opinion. When 99 Studios took over to create 3 and 4, despite their many shortcomings, the one thing they got 100% right was the AI behavior. Now, just like in Small Brawl, the AI would actually fight each other from time to time when not around the player. They also would run for health when in need, just like a real player would. However, that became extremely annoying to most players. Thankfully, Goodrich thought of this and decided to only include the mindset of the AI to attack each other, only engage one at a time with the player to avoid overwhelming them, and to avoid health to not steal it from the player. Now, one interesting thing that Dave has gone on record stating is that the AI in Small Brawl abide by the same rules as the player in terms of weapon pickups. They don't have any infinite inventory like every AI has in all previous Twisted Metal titles. Because of this, you're never going to see an AI in Small Brawl consistently spam their special weapon. They can only fire weapons that are picked up on the battlefield themselves. And best of all, this means the AI is not cheating like they always do in every other game. However, the one downside to this that I personally found is that they will steal your weapon pickups within the map and thus make it very difficult on certain maps that don't have a whole lot of pickups, such as Gridiron Snore and Now Playing. Other than that though, I do think Small Brawl has the most balanced AI in the entire series, making every playthrough enjoyable despite the shortcomings of the performance and the game engine. Twisted Metal Small Brawl was almost a masterpiece. We were robbed by Sony from seeing the true potential of what Dave and his team at Incog Inc. were capable of creating. If they would have been just given the proper chance to finish what they started, who knows? Maybe Twisted Metal would have catapulted back into the mainstream during the mid-2000s, and hey, it could have stayed there even to this day. Maybe we could have even gotten like an animated television show based off Small Brawl. Hell, we could have even gotten an entire line of RC cars based off the Small Brawl characters. That would have been really cool, and I think they would have sold really well. But sadly, that's all just dreams and speculation because we'll never truly know the full potential of what this game could have been. If only they were allowed to cook. So that's pretty much it on my thoughts of Twisted Metal Small Brawl. I do feel it's a very underrated game, and I do feel it is one of the most overlooked games on the PlayStation 1, let alone in the Twisted Metal series. Thank you guys so much for watching my video. Make sure to leave a like, share, support as always. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one, and hopefully see you in the next one. Peace out, everyone.